from the Peach Bowl. I want to send much love to the Pirate family and all my brothers and sisters out there that bleed purple and gold. I can truly say that I believe this will be our year. Our guys will put the time in and make it happen. The one question I have is, will you believe?
Welcome into the Sports Objective as we're here there as our season ticket promo for ECU. Very excited to have a very special night. As for those of you who don't know, I'm from Williamston, North Carolina. So anytime I can have some Williamston folks, anything about my alma mater, the Riverside Knights, we're going to do that very special night because we have two special people to me tonight. I want to welcome in Coach Brian Paschal, the new coach to Williamston, but not new to Williamston. We'll talk about that. And the professor, Phil Woolard, the second time on the show. So happy to have a great athletic director for my alma mater. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having us on tonight.
No doubt. It's great to be. And we actually, I told you guys I was by myself. We actually have, he always shows up late. Coach, I think you're going to have to do some up downs for him. We have Kyle Barber. Kyle, how are you, sir? Kyle, you there? Well, I think we lost him there. Anyway, we'll deal with him after practice, so to speak. Coach, wanted to have you on. Welcome back to Williamston. For those that don't know a little bit of your background, we'll talk in the interview, but I know you coach Holt Nailers and Terrence Copper when you were in Washington, so we want to get your takes on both of those ECU legend and obviously one that's still making his legacy, so to speak. But Coach, give your background for those. I know a little bit about you, but I know you've been coaching. Is it 28 years?
I've been a head coach 28 years.
Yeah.
Actually, this is my 33rd, I think.
Okay. So it's not your first rodeo as far as football.
It's not. It's not. I started off in Winston-Salem as an assistant coach and went to Williamston, and then took the head football job at Washington.
Yeah.
Stayed there 7 years, went to Roanoke High School, another Martin County school. Really enjoyed it there, stayed for 6. Went to Conley, to Beargrass, and now back home at Williamston.
So Phil Woolard joins us now, the AD. How in the world did you get Coach Brian Paschal? Not that the alma mater being Riverside has a lot of great coaches over the years. There's only a few coaches in the last 50 years. So how in the world did you get Brian Paschal?
Something I asked myself that to start off with. I was delighted to see when he put in his application. I joke around and tell everybody when they ask me, what is it about Brian Paschal you wanted? I said, well, when I coached football at North Pitt, we coached against him at Roanoke, at Washington. Then he was at Beargrass when I was at Riverside. He beat me everywhere he was, so now I want him on my side. So, no, I was tickled to death. Just the biggest thing is that he'll tell you, he wanted to come because he made the comment that he has coached a lot of places but never coached back at home. And it kind of to bring him back where we talk about, Coach Robinson and stuff and coaching at Williamston and him being there too with some of the great coaches. It was great to see his application come across the table. And I'm telling you what, when you sit in an interview with Brian Paschal, you better strap up because he is excited about everything. He gets in there and he talks about the things he's going to do. And, reading his resume is not half of what Brian Paschal is. You need to sit down with him and talk to him about football. He is we talk about how long he's been in the game. He's like a young coach. He's just as fired up now probably as he was when he first started.
He definitely has a lot of energy. Hey, Coach, one of the things I liked what I heard when I was at the meet and greet a couple weeks ago at the gymnasium, and I remember the late, great Henry Van Zandt at East Carolina once said, he said, when you're hiring a football coach, you need to make sure whether or not they have golf clubs. And you said one of the things I really loved about that you said is that how much that your one hobby was football. And that meant a lot. That meant a lot to me because if anybody knows anything about Williamston, we love our sports. I'm wearing a Williamston youth baseball shirt tonight. big tournament here this weekend. We love our sports here, and we take I know that might be good or bad, but being a small town, we take our sports seriously.
That's right. Personally, there's just, I don't have any hobbies. I don't do anything. I'm a father, a husband, and a football coach. And football is one of those deals where if you coach it right, it's a year-round thing. There's deadlines to meet all year long. When the season's over and the cold months are here, you're in the weight room. I mean, it's one of those things. You're in the weight room. It's just about getting strong. And then you keep on adding on from that point. In the spring, you add on foot speed. In the summer, you add on conditioning and practice. Then the season comes around. So there's always deadlines to meet. And, that's one of the things about being totally committed to it. And it's hard to do that if you have a lot of outside interest.
No doubt about it. And let me try again to see if I can get our co-host in here. Kyle, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Dave, man. Lots of internet issues going on here in the rural Green Lenoir Wayne County line in the middle of nowhere. But how you guys doing tonight in the beautiful Williamston, Martin County vicinity where I grew up?
He grew up in Williamston, outside of Williamston, and I know he had to leave us, I guess, when he was a teenager. But we still claim him here in these parts, as they would say. Coach, certainly one of the things I want to ask both of you, I'm going to pitch this out to you. We're doing kind of like a roundtable. As far as the rule changes, I don't know a lot about them this year, but I understand there's one thing that concerns me. I understand safety. So as a parent, I understand safety, but at the same time, I understand there's less contact right now. Is that correct this year?
Phil, did you want to?
One of the things that they're really pushing with the High School Athletic Association is that part about safety, and they limit the amount of I guess you would call it body to body contact. You can go with pads, and that's what a lot of folks are doing. In our situation, Coach Paschal can talk about this a little bit more too. When you get into 1A numbers, you can't afford a lot of, well, in my opinion anyway, you can't afford a lot of really hard hitting in practice. You want to be aggressive, but you want to kind of hold it up. And so that really impacts us a lot, trying not to do that. I stepped into this past week, some of my old players coach at Havelock. They have plenty of numbers if they wanted to do that. But in 1A school, we just don't. And the High School Athletic Association really is trying to cut down on those injuries, especially early in the season. So like concussions and things like that.
Well, simulation is the name of the game. And it's not just in tackling drills and things like that, but it's all of it. Where you can use the bag, where you can use different things you do. But there's no question that our sport is heading in a different direction over the last 20 years or has taken a different path over the last 20 years. And I've witnessed it all. I tried to get Dink Mills to come back out and help me a couple of years ago, not because of anything other than I just wanted him to see where this game has gone, where it's gone since he coached. And it really has taken a different turn. Now it's all about zone steps, and it's all about flipping the ball here and flipping the ball there and zone read this and dive read that. And if you can turn around and make it a physical game again, if you can bring that element back to your team and make that a characteristic of who you are, you really have a chance of winning in today's high school environment.
How do you balance that, guys? What you talking about lack of contact or hard hitting in practice? I mean, you got to do it some. You got to go live some, or they won't be ready for it on Friday night. How do you balance that?
Well, you can do a lot of things without full body-to-body contact. For example, tackling drills. We'll start off tackling drills every single day, 12 minutes every day, and none of it is live. It's the Seattle roll tackle thing, and it's head placement and it's feet, and all those things that go with it. So that's an example of what you can do without live contact. The idea of wrapping up and driving back and all that and then turning loose without going to the ground, you can handle that too. When I was at D.H. Conley, we had 100 players in the program. We still didn't go to the ground often unless it was Oklahoma or something like that. And that's very close, close body-to-body type thing. It's not collisions that you get in live scrimmage situations. So we were very cautious about that as well.
Coach, we had Bubba Rosenbaum. Unfortunately, couldn't be with us live tonight on the show, participating like he normally does and producing the show. He does a great job booking the show and producing. But he had a question. So anybody that has questions tonight, if you're on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, you can chime in that way. And he has a question. Coach Paschal, talk about your desire to be the head coach of Riverside. You made it clear this is a job you've had your eye on for quite some time.
Well, thank you much. And listen, when I left, I was the offense coordinator in '95. We won the state championship. I took the job at Washington. Then I went back 2 days later and told them, no, I don't want it. And I went back, got my job back at Williamston. Then I did another about face and went back to Washington. That's how hard it is to leave this place. It's tough because people love it. If you don't believe that they love sports in this town, and Coach Woolard can attest to this, we'll go down to the Gaylord Perry Park. Anytime they got something going on, it doesn't matter. Basketball, football, go down and watch it. And the community is passionate about it. And there's a lot of positives going on in this community right now. For example, youth football has several teams. We've got a new athletic director at the middle school, some football guys at the middle school that wants to tie the programs together. So we have the ability to get on Tarborough's page or take a lesson from them and tie all three programs together. All those things are things that would bring a coach back to a community like this. And, I've just got this thing about Williamston and Riverside, and I want to be a part of it. So I'm thrilled to be back. And listen, the things that I've found, we've had a chance to have 1 week of practice, of camp. And everything I've gone through, everything I've experienced has been positive, all of it. The kids have a tremendous football IQ, their work ethic and what they're doing. I love them. I love where we're at. So we'll see. The one thing that we do have to address are our numbers and the number of kids participating in the program. It's down, and it's down because of some problems that they've had, COVID and other type issues that were just unforeseeable, and they're having to deal with it. So we've got to get the numbers back up, but the program looks like it can be something that we can steer in the right direction.
Phil, is this a case where a coach can just walk up and down the halls and say, okay, you're a guy, you're breathing, and we can put him on the roster? I mean, being a 1A school, and my son Alexander said he wanted to play every sport. I told him, you're going to a 1A high school. You will be playing every sport as a boy.
Yeah, and I think part of the thing that Coach Paschal brings is again, you can't be around him and not just feel the passion for it. And so it was funny the first day he comes into the gym that I was there with, and we had some basketball workouts. He's pointing kids out. That kid needs to play football. That kid needs to play football. He did bring up a good point where we're low in numbers, and part of that is from all the screwy mess with COVID, the whole virtual thing. We got to get our kids back in school, and I think it's going to be. I think once the kids get around Coach Paschal, he'll be able to walk them down the hall and go, hey, you ever thought about playing football? Come on out and let's play. And I think after a while they'll do that. Also, too, I think a lot of the kids he has with him now already will talk to their friends and get them to come out. He addressed it during his interview. He understands this is a building process and that this year is going to be a few kids, and it's something he's going to have to build back up. Coach McGill had a great program there, and then when COVID hit, it just pulled the numbers down. We started off with 23 last year. The last game we played, I think we ended up with 19. We had some that didn't finish the season, one that got hurt, and so that's one thing that Coach Paschal is going to be able to do. And I honestly think that after a while it's going to be, hey, come on, play football. And we talk about it. Winning is kind of contagious. And when you start winning, you start having good things. And I don't mean just winning on the scoreboard. I mean winning with relationships and winning with that fun you have in sports. I think it automatically draws other people to it. We talked about Williamston being a sports community. I don't know how many thousands of people we had last, was it Thursday, when they had the opening ceremonies for the baseball tournament, and they had it at a football field. I mean, that place was packed. people, I was on vacation, people were sending me pictures. Look at this. And I really think that once you start having that, because we had it under Coach McGill too, people will be drawn to that football team. And I'm hoping, and Coach Paschal also addressed this, I'm hoping it's not just football. As he gets more involved in sports and more involved in the weight room, I'm hoping that our whole sporting program will start to grow, and you will see some big successes with him in the weight room and getting some other kids in the weight room too.
Well, if I can interject, we're not waiting till the kids get to school. And I don't mean that, but what we're doing is trying to be proactive in going down to the middle school. So we're working really hard right now to try to schedule a class. We can go get the middle schoolers, bring them to the high school for weightlifting each day, and go ahead and get them involved in the program so that we learn them, we get them physically ready to play, and we get back to having a JV team. All those things can be really important. Because listen, if you don't have a JV team, ninth graders aren't going to come out. They're not, and they're not. You're going to get 3 or 4 out a year, and then once you get down the road, you miss having them as freshmen or don't get them at all. So we're going to go get them and bring them over, and that's in the works, not finalized, but we hope to have that in place in a few weeks.
And I remember back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s, with Coach Harold Robinson is going to be joining us here in a little while. We had, what was it, Coach, 60, 65. I mean, it was a lot of guys on that sideline. A lot of guys on that sideline. What my memory is.
JV, yeah. Listen, Harold Robinson was a terrific football coach, terrific person, a terrific leader. And if you get a chance to talk about him at all on this program, I'd love to, talk a little bit about him. I'm not sure what your agenda is, but
oh yeah, we are.
He's going to be our next guest.
He's going to join y'all for a little bit, so we'll have a few minutes of overlap with him. But no doubt, do you have any funny H-Rob stories you can tell on a podcast where we won't get?
Wow, yes, I do.
I have one or two I can tell too.
Okay.
Probably the best is Harold was notorious for calling meetings all the time, not during football season, but like we had coaches meetings, all the time, nonstop. So we're over Christmas break one year, and he hears about this truck that's rolled down the hill, this beer truck that's rolled down the hill on its way from Bertie towards Martin County. And somebody calls him and says, if you can get your team together and you can help us load all this beer off of one truck up to the other, we'll donate $1,000 to your athletic department. So here we go. He makes the calls. We make the call. We get all the kids out there, and there we are. So we're all day long, and it was really frigid. And so all day long, so we're loading it. We got an assembly line. We're passing the beer up case by case by case, putting it from one truck to another. And Harold was the type of person. Now, he didn't run away from conflict. He didn't run away from responsibility. I mean, if something needs to be done, he was going to address it. I mean, it's just that simple. So anyway, long story short, so the guy that owned the truck brought pizzas for the kids. Well, the kids, it's really cold. It's just about dark. They all get in the back of this truck where we've been loading all this beer. You see where the story's going right? So they get in the back of this truck, and they got pizza, and they got an unlimited supply of beer, and they're high school kids. And I think he heard one. And man, he threw that door open. I mean, it wasn't closed, but he threw it open. He went charging in there, and he lit those kids up, and it was really funny. So we go back and we go away and whatnot and come back and double check a little while later. And he made us swing it all the way back around to make sure none of those kids had hit anything in the woods or hit anything in the bushes or anything like that. So that's one of them. And that's kind of who he was. Any opportunity that would benefit our program, whether it was professional wrestling, whether it didn't matter. We had the Redskins come one time and play us in basketball. Whatever it took, he was going to raise money. He was going to do it right, and he was going to put the time into it. And so that's just one example of who he was and how he did things. He was a great, great leader, great mentor.
No question.
Yeah,
what about
a
you?
lot of folks, when my first teaching job was actually in 98, 99 at Williamson High School. I'd actually been coaching part-time at North Pitt and got a job there a little late in August after school had started. And so he told me, he said, listen, you're a coach. He said, you continue doing what you do because you need to coach. And he said, we'll get you on here next year if you're one day. And he got up there, and Brian's probably seen this for. He's doing the who dat. Who dat said he gonna beat them Tigers. And I looked at that time.
Did we lose? I think we lost.
His face is just as red as a tomato. And I looked at Jim Bob. I said, he's gonna die. He's gonna stroke out right here. And I'm telling you what, that gym, it was the bleacher was about to come off the foundation. And when I got back to was winning, it seemed like everything in football, beating everybody. They asked me, they said, how do they have such, because I was like the guy looking inside of that. And they said, how do they have so many winning teams and how is their football so good? I said, guys, I'm going to tell you, he's got a lot of good coaches, but those kids would chew through a cement wall if he told them that's how to win a football game. I mean, the way he motivated the kids, and that wasn't just football players in that gym that day, that was the student body. And they were ready to completely tear that place apart. And I can't remember who we were playing now, but TJ Long and Jim Bob said, that's what he does. That's how he is. He gets those kids going. And it's like just unleashing the animals when you throw them the gate is unreal.
And, Harold Robinson, they talk about coaching trees and that sort of thing and who's coaching tree off. Harold Robinson was the coaching tree at Williamston. I mean, there wasn't anybody. The Dink was before him and was a great coach in his own rights, particularly baseball. And there were others even before him. But Coach Robinson, he was the man. And all these coaches that came from this program that learned so much from him. Harold didn't just show by example, like he mentored you. He would put you in situations to help you grow as a coach. Whether it was, he was so well connected, he would line you up to speak somewhere at a clinic. For example, hey, Coach Paschal, you're speaking at the clinic in Charlotte on the wing tee in 3 weeks, get ready. There was never, hey, do you want to do it? Or he would just do things like that. He would have you set up and he'd make sure to introduce you to people. He would take you places to see how professionals did it. And he was just so well connected. He was such a good mentor to all of us in so many ways. He truly is one of the greats.
No doubt. I'm excited to have him back.
Yeah, I ended up leaving in 99 and coming back to Pitt County. But I can tell you, when I was teaching there, our team, our North Pitt team, it was pretty decent. I was sitting there in the cafeteria one day. Actually, we were going to play St. Paul's in the second or third, I think it might have been the third round of the playoffs. And he came to me and he asked, hey, what time y'all leaving today? I said, well, the team's leaving at so-and-so. I'm going to be leaving after school because I can't miss any classes or anything. In about 15 minutes, the assistant principal came down and said, I'll cover your class for you. Coach Robinson said, you need to go coach. And I mean, that's what he was. I wasn't even coaching for them. But again, it's the idea that you're a coach and that's part of your job and the place he holds that in your life. We talk about it before and all the time in coaching. You're not just a teacher inside the classroom. You go out and you coach and you impact kids' lives there. And he got that. He understood that. Even with me not being on the staff there, he knew that was important.
No question. We got another. Speaking of questions, if you have a question for Coach Paschal, Phil Woolard, the AD at Riverside, coach is now back with Williamston. Bubba has another question he wants to pose to you. It's a NIL question for you. Either one of you can take it. Although you're a high school coach, talk about your thoughts on the name, image, and likeness impact, plus transferring without sitting, and the advice you would give young men.
You always go back to your own experience, right? I mean, that's what you do. I played football at Wake Forest, and schools like Wake Forest, they're gonna have a tough time competing when a kid. I saw where a basketball player somewhere the number one recruit he's still in high school, and he's got like all these contracts going for the likeness thing. And these kids that go to Alabama or go to SEC schools that can generate that type of income for kids, Wake Forest, Duke, places like that are going to have trouble competing. And so that's the first thing I see is that it just really it makes the playing field unlevel. Secondly, what's wrong with a kid getting a college education paid for. Now, it's certainly not free. There's no question about that. Anybody that's played college football can tell you that. But listen, this is a great opportunity. Everything's paid for. You're at the front of the line and everything, and you have an opportunity. And I think that I understand the dynamics of that are the NCAA is making tons of money, but maybe there's other ways around it. Maybe the ticket prices. Maybe it doesn't cost $200 to take your family to a game anymore. I don't know, but that just seems like it's awfully unfair to schools like my alma mater, Wake Forest. The no transfer rule. I started 1 year in college football. I started my senior year. 3 years I didn't start. I would have never transferred. I love Wake Forest. I'm through and through. Look at my license plate on my car, Wake Forest, still. And it's one of those things. And listen, I don't understand the idea of just going on and on. And I hope he doesn't mind me saying this. Williamston had a quarterback 3 years ago, and he was really, really good. He went to Gardner Webb to play. And I was just talking to him the other day, and we had the same conversation. And I was so impressed with him because he saw the big picture. He wasn't playing right away, but he sees down the road that he's going to play, and he sees where his chances are. But he also knows that he's a really good school, and it's a really good opportunity for him to get an education. He's keeping the big picture in his mind. He understands he's got to pay the price, but he's not looking for immediate gratification. That impressed me.
Yeah, what happened to dedication? I did transfer from Leeds McRae College my freshman year. I went to East Carolina my sophomore, junior, and senior year. I got a chance I didn't have the grades, unfortunately, to get into. That's immaturity on my part. I wish I could go back, but to be honest about that. But there are a lot of folks that are transferring year after year after year after year after year. That's my issue. I understand there's some times when you guys know as players and coaches don't get along, or maybe if a guy, like if you were coaching college coach and you see that a guy is talented, maybe he doesn't fit your scheme, so to speak, not to quite, maybe that you didn't recruit the player, so to speak, and you have a different system you're running, maybe he would fit in a better system, better school. That's one thing. But these kids today, I don't think they want, I sound like an 80-year-old man, but they don't want to put the work in. They see Sports Center and they automatically think that they're going to be like, when you teach weightlifting, they can walk in there and deadlift 1 million pounds or bench press 1 million pounds without doing the work.
I just don't,
Well,
go ahead.
And I think, and again, I sound like my dad here, but I think part of the problem is we have so much of a me thing now. We have this with all the social media and things we have. I need that instant gratification, I need that instant recognition, and the idea of belonging to a team. It's the know your job deal. So if I'm second string, my job is to push that first string to do better. It makes both of us better. It's not always about me. It's about getting that team better. And I think part of the problem that we're running into now with everything they see around them, I need that instant gratification. I need my name on that list of I did this or this or this. And I think it's going to go again to the idea of if I'm a kid going to college, let me see what I can get out of it. Let me see what kind of recognition or money and stuff I can get out of it. And that's why you have kids who go to school at this place for a year or so. I didn't get what I want, so I'm going to go somewhere else. You're chasing that notoriety instead of staying there and working your way through and building yourself up. I'm sure Coach Paschal was a better player, a better coach, and a better man because he stuck there and he saw what it took and he went through the grind to get to where it was, and he probably appreciated it more when he was actually on the starting lineup and saw his name on that and realized what he'd been through.
And guys, we have with us now, here's Coach Harold Robinson. He was in the green room. I want to bring in Coach. Coach, such an honor to have you on, such a North Carolina legend. And we've got two guys that know you, so we wanted to have you on with them because we're so excited to have Coach Brian Paschal.
Harold, I know that Will got you on that.
Oh, my Lord, Paschal. Paschal. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, sir.
Let me tell you something. I am so excited. I don't know why I'm more excited for Brian Paschal or the kids in Williamson High School, Riverside now. I am so excited that he got that job. But I'm going to tell you something. he has to be the dumbest person to ever play football.
Why is
Yeah,
that, Coach?
I always told him, Bubba. I always told him. He went on a recruiting visit one time down in Clemson, and Wake Forest. They were playing Wake Forest that weekend, and Clemson beat Wake Forest 68-0.
Coach, it was 82-18.
Oh, 82-8. That's bad. And then Monday, Bubba, he comes in and commits to Wake Forest.
Coach, I thought there was a team I could play for right there.
They needed the help right then, didn't they?
They needed the help right then. And
they needed immediate help. I'm not going to tell you the real reason why he committed to Wake Forest.
Coach, you know what? To show you my level of intelligence, who goes to a place like Wake Forest to become a PE teacher, right?
Or
Isn't that the truth?
School suspension teacher.
It doesn't make much sense, does it, Coach?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
We're happy to have you on, Coach.
What? I'll tell you one thing. Brian Paschal he's proven himself over the years. And I will say this. I know at Washington High School when he was there, they had a winning culture. And Brian left and went to D.H. Conley, where they had a losing culture. But I would say this. After 2 or 3 years at D.H. Conley, and I told him this, they were rallying behind football, something they hadn't done in years. But I'll tell you what, he developed programs, and he'll do the same thing at Riverside. And I'm just so excited. And he always told me, he said, Coach, I'm going to come back before I retire completely, and I'm going to get Riverside straightened out. And I am so excited. And I don't know who is excited more, me or the people in Williamston, that Brian's back. And some of our former players helped him, but all he needs now is Herbie Rogers, Chris Knott, and he needs Chris Knott, the Bulldog. And he would be fine.
Chris Knott's above our pay grade, he's the principal in Wake County now, so we got to mulch him off the list.
In Wake County,
yes. And Herbie is off in New Mexico or something, coaching 8-man football at this moment, I think. So he's out too.
Well, we have Coach Paschal. We have one of my dear friends that you know very well, the voice of D.H. Conley, Alan Vick. He's chiming in tonight. Coach Paschal is a great coach in person. He is a winner. Thank you, AV. I appreciate you, Alan, very much for tuning in tonight. He's a good friend. When you make a friend in radio, it may be like coaching. When you make a friend in radio, you've done something. And Alan's been with me since day one when I stepped in July 1st of 96 in Greenville in radio. But Coach Robinson, I think that one of the things that you built, certainly when they were talking about culture, I know about Coach Paschal building a culture. How difficult, I want to ask all three of you from different perspectives, how difficult is it going to be to build a culture post-COVID? I think that Coach McGill did a great job, but COVID really knocked the program down. That's not his fault. How do you build that back up?
You're right. See, I think people don't really 3 years ago, they won 10 games. If you take the last 2 years away, they had winning records 11 out of 13 years. So that program is not desolate. Matter of fact, he did a great job and won a lot of games. And, he ought to be proud of what he accomplished there. But it is where it is now because of whatever reason. And we do have a ways to go. But I'm going to tell you what, there is a football IQ in that program, these kids, that is really, really encouraging. And I think they're hungry to win, and I think they want to get after it. And we're playing catch up, Dave. I mean, we're trying to get weightlifting in right after practice. We're trying to do things that we should have been doing in January. and right on through. So we're trying to do it. But what I'm hoping is that other teams, other programs are kind of in the same spot because of COVID issues also. And I think that they are. I think there's a lot of teams like this, a lot of teams that aren't expecting to have JV programs, and numbers are down everywhere. And that's not just COVID, that's just football in general nowadays and whatnot. So, I think we've got a ways to go, but I'm ready to tackle the job and see what we can do with it. We have a couple of really good young coaches, Coach Ars and Coach Keys. Both of them are young guys that want to be good. And so that's a good beginning, good starting place. And if we can add to that coaching staff as we move through the years and get more and more on staff, we would be right where Coach Robinson was years ago as far as staff.
He had about 20. Coach Robinson, you had about 20 guys on the sideline, like guys off the street. There was so many coaches that wanted to coach for with you and for you. I'll never forget that in high school in the late 80s, early 90s. It was you saw a whole bunch of players, but then you saw a whole bunch of coaches with you too.
Look, that guy, Harold Robinson, did not hire me away because he went and recruited me. I mean, he went and scouted. I was at a baseball game.
Don't go lie about it.
I was wearing a baseball game wearing khaki pants and not the whole baseball attire thing. And he gave me the hardest time about, like, look, you can come to Williamston, but you're not going to dress like this. And we have a standard we have here. And this is how it's going to be. And by the way, your wife was my babysitter long before you ever met her. And so on and on and on, so. So she babysitted his children.
One day, and I checked Brian out. He was in there hitting fungos, David, in a pair of khakis and a sweatshirt. And I thought to myself, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to have this. So I rode back to Williamston, and then Serena, he goes to ACOC, and then after Chalkawinity, and he's been in multiple stops. But then, so Brian applies for a job, and then Serena applied for a job also. Well, I knew she was a hell of a lot smarter than he was. So in chemistry, so I went to the principal and I said, I think it was Miss Keel. I said, we got a chance to hire a good chemistry teacher. And she said, well, what about her? I said, she's from here, and she knew her mother and father, so we hired her. And then I popped a question to her. I said, well, she's got a husband as a football coach. And Brian came in with a sport coat on and a shirt and tie. And I thought to myself, damn, what a change he's made.
I learned my lesson, didn't I, Coach?
Yeah, it went a long ways. And then I
Look,
tell you, he taught
Phil,
history. He taught
Phil,
history.
you remember this. Harold made us dress the same at practice. Oh, yeah, every coach had to have a yellow shirt on, these kind of pants on. It wasn't even just a game thing. It was like, this is what we're going to do at practice, and this is do it. And he wanted to look professional, look the part.
We did,
Coach.
That's right.
And
I can tell you too. Again, going back to that 1 year I was there, Coach Robinson. Again, I wasn't even on staff, and Coach Robinson had a coaches meeting and called me into the coaches meeting to let me sit in there and listen to what he was telling the other coaches about making sure kids are in class, making sure they're getting this. And so, yeah, it's I can only imagine how it would be on the football field. There's a certain way you had to do things with Coach Robinson, and I'm sure there was no veering away from it.
Well, hey, you do look at all the coaches, no matter what level they are on. If it's John Woodward, and you have a lot of great coaches back in the time, and I remember watching with UCLA, they had a documentary back in the day several years ago, and all the players from back in the late 60s and 70s when they had that big run, they said a coach told them how to put on socks. I mean, it was down. That's how attention to detail he was. And I think about Coach Robinson as the same, from that same old school self of the very fact that we have a way we do it, we win here, and this is what you're going to do. And if you're going to do it, if you're going to be with me, we're going to win, and you're going to do it this way.
And it
goes back to what I said. Yeah, you're not an individual. You're part of a team, and you got to look that part, and everybody's got to be on the same page. Coach Paschal brought that in too. he talking about going to the middle school and getting the kids. He's already talked to the middle school football coach. They're in, talk all the time about, what's our football going to look like? What are the things we want? It's the idea of getting everybody on the same page. And it goes from, play scheme to how you look. You're a part of a team. And I can probably guarantee you, and I might be wrong, of course, but I can guarantee you one of the reasons that Coach Robinson had a lot of folks on the sidelines was him going out and snatching Brian, but also, too, people want to be a part of that program when they see that and see that kind of atmosphere, that team building. They want to be a part of that.
Look, Harold was so connected. And I don't mean just like, for example, in the state championship game in 95, he's got a Hall of Famer up there spotting for me, B.W. Holt. I mean, that was just beyond anything I could handle. I just finally told Harold, I said, Harold, this just isn't going to work. Like, I can't deal with this. He's too, I was just nervous even talking to him. And then it was nothing that he would be sitting in the office talking to whoever, the Holtz at Notre Dame, or he's talking to, whoever down at Texas, Mac Brown at Texas or whatever. And he's sitting on the phone talking to him like he's their best friend. So he was so well connected also. And then, of course, once he got into the college game, I'm sure it was even more so. But, it's just he was connected. And he knew who to put you in touch with and how to stream it all together. It was a great experience being an assistant coach for him. Harold, it was hard for me to leave you going to Washington. I told these guys I took the job, then I quit the job, then I took the job because I didn't want to leave you like that. And you were so good about it, and you were so good about because listen, it was like 2 days before the season started. When I took that job, Harold didn't even have an offensive coordinator. It was like July 26th or something when it happened.
It was the day before the season started, and well, just like Chris and Bull left, he left. We were platooning, David, and we were going to start platooning. And Chris Knott ups and gets mad and leaves. And we start the first night of practice platooning. We got the defense at one end and the offense at the other end. And I'm the only one down with the defense because Bull's not there. And we call him Bull. But anyway, he called me up that night and he was crying. I said, "Oh, get over it. Get over it." He said he wanted an increase in pay and all this kind of stuff. But I said, "No, I'm not doing that. You just come back." And the next day he popped into practice and there he was there forever. But I tell you what Brian did. He talked me in to running the wing tee. And I will never forget that. The wing tee ran us back to Delaware. Remember that, Brian? We had not scored a touchdown in forever.
Oh, we got beat by Roanoke the first game.
Yeah, but we
were winning 19-0 at halftime and lost 21-19.
Yeah, and that was our fault. And I've always said, make some adjustments at halftime. We walk in there, we got a pretty good football team, ain't no doubt. And in 95, but we were 0 and we were
1-2.
Oh, yeah, we were 1-2 because I had kicked Hibachi off the team that we were getting.
You plug in for this
Northside. Brian takes the offensive line, and we reshuffle the offensive line. I mean, we completely reshuffled it. And dang on for Dave, we started Tony Mobley at left tackle and Chris Ebram at left guard, and who could pull and trap. And we had a Minshew kid at center. And then we had Hibachi and George and Purnell at tight ends. But that was the best decision that we've ever made at Williamston High School.
Look, George's big head just got bigger, Coach.
Can you believe it? Hey, he's got
when
a
you
master's
talk about
degree.
him.
Can you believe he's got a master's degree?
Well, he's got a big enough head. I know that he has the ability up there to think. That's for sure.
There we go. Now,
listen, did you?
They are. I'm gonna tell you what. The bloodline, the DNA, has got to be good in Williamston right now, because all of those kids have kids, that are playing in the middle school and or high school. And
That's right.
I tell you what, the timing could not have been better. The only thing I ride down there every Wednesday morning, Brian, and the gates unlocked, and I ride down to the stadium, and I have so many memories. And I used to work every day on that field.
Every day.
But
Dave, he would be down there when he was down on that field in the summer. He was down there digging up a water head, a sprinkler head. He was down there nonstop digging those things and whatnot. And you did some work on that field. I tell you what, Phil Woolard over there has got it looking good right now. I went down there today and looked at it. It is fantastic.
I was happy to be back in the stadium, but my unfortunate was that Thursday was so hot for the opening ceremonies for the Tar Heel League's baseball tournament. It was unbelievable, but I was so excited, Coach, to be back in the stadium, Coach Robinson and Coach Paschal, knowing we have a great football program and know that you can build from what Coach McGill had and to keep you said this, I think it was one of the local TV stations I remember. And it's true. There hasn't been that many football coaches for a reason here because we have a winning tradition. It's going from coach to coach to coach to coach. And
they get here and they stay.
It's like a Supreme Court appointment.
Yeah.
Once you're on there, you're there. And if you want that job, you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait a while, right, Coach Robinson?
Yeah, but I was there for 31 years, and Dink was there for 12 years before me, and George Hardison was there for a couple of years, and then, I tell you what, Coach Maynard, who coached the first state championship in '54, and I think Brian's. Well, Serena's uncle was on that team.
Oh, Serena's dad played for him. I met Coach Maynard.
Yeah, we had a dinner after it was over with, and they gave us the football from that game. So Coach Maynard was there, but and then Roger Thrift was there, and Roger Thrift was a heck of a football coach. He later coached at New Bern High School and was in the Hall of Fame, and then passed away. And then Doug Alexander, who started all that double dive stuff in Tarboro, he came there and the coach for a while. So there's been a run, and then at E.J. Hayes, Herman Boone was there. So there's been a lot of good football coaches in that area, but none of them have been as good as their assistants were. The year I had Brian and Herbie, oh gosh,
Herbie Rogers was a really good coach.
Wow,
he was a really good coach.
Yeah, he was excellent, and Chris Knott, and just the Jim Bobs and Hank Tice and the T.J. Longs and all. They were just young, good assistant coaches, and then Brian left and went to Washington, and when things happened, I was always there for Brian. He knew that, and but I'm really excited that he is back at Williamston now. I really am.
We got two, by the way, folks. If you want to comment on Facebook,
Phil, you got your hands full, buddy. What are you going to teach, Brian?
I'm tickled to death. Coach Pass is doing some weightlifting for us. He's going to have a couple classes of weightlifting. He's going to try to. We talked about it earlier. He's going to try to pull up them middle school folks, get them in the weight room, and get them interested in playing football for us too. One of the things as you were talking, I was trying to get back on. I was having some problems here, but Coach Robinson, that's kind of the curse of having a really good program is sooner or later those guys who are really good with you, people start trying to snatch them up for some head positions, like with Jim Bob, with Brian too. So that's kind of the blessing, but it's also a curse down the road.
Coach, I'll tell you though, Coach Woolard, I'll tell you though.
I'm planning on Coach Paschal.
Coach Woolard, are you there?
Go ahead, Brian.
I don't think he's there.
See, I was the offense coordinator for Harold, and Jim Bob was Harold's offense coordinator. We were two completely different people. He was a spread guy, and I was a wing T guy. There couldn't be much difference. The common thread was Harold. The common thread holding it all together was him, and it didn't really matter about scheme. Just like you and I have talked about on a number of occasions, it's not really about what you run. It's about the culture of the program and the weight room. And Harold, you were a weight room guy. Things have changed so much in there by then, but
yeah,
back in those days, you had those kids in there pounding those weights.
Oh yeah,
we did. And we were the first school in probably the East to start a weight training class. And remember that old room we had, Brian?
Oh yeah, you and me moved it
Knocked
upstairs.
that wall out, and we went ahead and bought the 6 or 7 sets of Olympic weights and all those kids and for the kids and all. And then we outgrew that room and went upstairs and started bringing in all that hammer equipment and with the squat racks and all that. So yeah, we believed in hitting the weights.
We absolutely did.
But I remember what Brian had an idea of starting a wing T camp. And so we talked about it, and we had legends. We had legends working that camp. Earl Smith, who later would
B.W.
coach
Joey,
at New Hanover. B.W. Holt.
and the man himself.
Jack
wasn't
Holly.
the guy from Wallace?
Babe Howell. We had Jack Holly.
Jack Holly.
The kids loved Jack Holly.
Dave, the people that he just said, every one of them were Hall of Famers.
yeah, I know.
And they were all here at one time, and they all ran the wing T. And we're sitting in a room with these guys at 1 o'clock at night over at the old Holiday Inn, and they're talking football, and it was the most amazing atmosphere you've ever seen. And Harold and I made some money off of that too, didn't we, Harold?
We did. And we did until the lady in the lunchroom tried to steal it.
Oh my goodness, we've got.
She wanted to cut, didn't she?
Oh my God,
That
inside
didn't last
football.
with Paschal. David, that didn't last with Paschal.
No, I believe it not. We got some questions.
He got his money back quick.
I bet.
But
We got some
anyway, it was a good experience. It was that camp went on for until 2001, and we went up and scrimmaged Starmont in '99, and it was like a battle.
Coach, it was. And Dave, I'll get to those questions in 1 second, but what Harold's talking about was we were at the Star Mount when B.W. Holt was, and they kept killing us on this little screen. And we were like, daggum. So afterwards, we're eating hot dogs. We found the coach was running. We said, what in the world, were you doing? And he drew up on a napkin with a hot dog stain on it, and we tucked it away, and we put that thing in, and that was one of the deciding factors in the state championship game.
Wow.
4 months later. That same play that he showed us.
You know what, Brian? We never ran that much. It was old split screen, and Lamont Manning, he was a recipient of it, and we always worried about the tackle. That was heavy head, getting out and blocking the safety. But David came up to me, he said, in the state championship game, he said, Coach, it's 3rd and 4. What do you want to run? I said, well, hell, run the split screen, Brian. It hit Lamont's hands, and he was hiney holing elbows, baby, right down at about the 5-yard line. Then Ronnie took it in, and that was it. That was the ball game.
It was a big thing. It happened all because of that scrimmage.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And that was Dickie Klein. He was at Dickie Klein gave us that play, and it was the best play ever written on a napkin.
It was.
Do we have some more plays we can get for this season? Do we have some more plays we can get?
Hey, I'm going to tell you what we have done. We have installed quite a bit last week, and they did a great job picking it up. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm excited
What are you
about this.
going to run, Brian?
Harold, I'm excited about this
What-
team.
what-
We have some playmakers out there.
Yeah, what are
But-
you going to run?
Well, it ain't that option I used to run. You know we're running the wing tee. What is it?
Yeah.
What are the questions, Dave?
All right, that's what we'll get to you right now. This is from Clarence Point II. Coach Paschal, what is the key you need from your players, the school, and the community this season to view your season as a success?
Well, this thing began so late. I mean, it was just 2 weeks ago. So we missed the entire spring. We missed the entire winter, the entire spring. We missed the summer, which, is 3 practices a day. So we're in this thing now playing catch up. If we can get into the season and keep trying to build our strength level and make that a real project, a long-term project, not just something that we hit and miss, but something we hit occasion or that we hit steady, and we can eliminate penalties and turnovers and play clean, I think we're going to be in enough games to have a good season. But that's the key to it, isn't it, Harold Robinson? You start booting the ball around, start having a lot of penalties, you're not going to win games, are you? So,
No,
that's
you're
kind
not.
of the key for us.
Can't do it.
All right, we have another comment from Alan
Dave,
Vick.
one of the things that Coach Paschal talks about. One of the things that Coach Paschal talks about is being consistent, and that word goes across the board. Is not only consistent in your winning or in your program, but it's also being consistent each and every play you go through. That's one of the things I think that he's going to look for from the players too, and to kind of go with Coach Point, and Coach Point is on our staff also too. He's our new girls basketball coach, but to kind of look at the community deal to answer that question, we got to have, I want to see the nights, the Friday nights where it was packed in the stands. There was standing room only. The hill was packed with people bringing their chairs and blankets out. That's what I want to see. I want to see a community passion again with all the sports, bleeding over football, basketball, volleyball, everything. Because, being the AD and Coach Robinson kind of taught this too, there are some numbers and some dollar signs that needs to go with everything. And I really think that's one of the things the community is going to be able to do is kind of fall back into, talking about that love of sports and coming out on Friday night. I think a lot of folks missed it last year. And I think a lot of folks that may have kind of took it for granted are going to look at it this year and go, man, I need to get back out of some sports. And I'm hoping that's what we get from the community too, that consistent play from the players across the board and get that community back.
Coach Robinson, I have a story from our good friend Alan Vick, the voice of D.H. Conley, who he actually went to Farmville Central. So this was your era, Coach. He said, my senior year at Farmville Central was Dixon Saul's first game as head coach. We went down to Williamston and won. Farmville Central rarely beat Williamston. It was also the site of the coldest I've ever been calling a football game with Gene Gray and Bill Woolard. He said we were outside in November, I think, 1983. Do you remember that?
I remember that game. The first time we beat Dixon, it was my first game he was at Aiden Grifton, and then the next year they played us at Williamston, and they were running the run and shoot. That was a new was a new offense. That was
the
back
Woolard,
when
right?
Brian was in high school, and Phil was in high school, but. Then in '84, we played him for the first game of the year. That was the hardest game I'd ever played in. And then we played him in the Eastern Finals in '84. So
Good. They've got this area.
We played him about 5 times. Yeah, we played him about 5 times, and then we played him again. We played him in 2000 for the Eastern Finals, 2001. The year I was supposed to be coach of the Shrine Bowl, and we couldn't go that year because we went to the state championship. So we'll do
Hey,
it next year.
there you go. I'd rather for you to be in the state championship. Hey, Coach Bubba Rosenbaum, the producer of the show and co-host of the show, said the man, the myth, the legend, H. Rob. What are your thoughts on the Pirates? So I had some ECU questions, so I waited on purpose
Oh,
for the.
they're going to be better. They'll be better. Mike Houston is such a good guy and a hard worker, and he's a disciplinarian. He's a throwback to the old school. I remember Mike when he coached at Owen High School up in Asheville, and then he went with Bobby Poss, one of the coaches up there, T.W. Andrews, and then he went to Brevard. So Mike's Mike's got a good staff with him. He and Steve Shankweiler. You're not going to find a better offensive line coach than Shank and Donnie Kirkpatrick. He's a
I coached his
throwback.
son.
Yeah, well, you coached his son at quarterback at Conley,
Right.
and Donnie is just a mess. He's learned a lot of that spread stuff from Lincoln because they were there together with Ruff. But Donnie stayed there after Skip left and coached with Ruff. And so Donnie's got a lot of that Lincoln Riley's mentality.
No question. And
so I think they'll be better.
Coach Paschal, this is obviously selfish on my part. As much as I love Riverside, I love East Carolina. How do we create a pipeline and have more Knights? I always want to say Tigers. Forgive me, folks that are Knights and now Coach Woolard, but have more Knights become Pirates. How do we build that?
Harold sent some kids over there, and Asim did a great job. Coach McGill did a great job marketing his kids to college. He had quite a few that went, and he actually had a defensive lineman that went over there not long ago.
Yeah, he graduated a couple of years ago.
And so we have had some to go, but we've got to develop these kids. We have some athletes in Williamston, but development is the key, and that starts in the weight room. Everything that kids want to be, everything that your team wants to be, it all begins in the weight room. And it's not just getting and lifting weights. It's doing the foot speed that goes with it, the plyometrics that go with it, all the things that make them explosive athletes. That's it. Coach Woolard talked about that briefly, and he was talking about other programs. What he was referring to was us tying all these programs together. When I was at DH Conley, every athlete in that school was a bigger, faster, stronger. Every program was a bigger, faster. That's a strength program that we use. Every program was bigger, faster, stronger. We were all unified in what we did in the weight room. And so girls, guys, all of it. And that was a big deal to our success over there. And you saw what happened. That program just blew up, not just football, but all of it. Volleyball, girls soccer, right down the line. Basketball. Rob Maloney loves his kids in the weight room, loves them working hard. And he's one of the finest basketball coaches around. And a lot of it's got to do with just training, so that's what Coach Woolard was referring to when he said everybody can benefit from it, and they can. So we need to get everybody on the same page, and we need to do a sell job on that.
No question about it. As far as I was looking at the schedule for folks can go to maxpreps.com. I knew the first game. I didn't know the rest. I couldn't remember, but I know is it the season I take it pushed back because of COVID? I saw it's August the 27th. It seems like it would be normally around the 20th when we would start, right, for the first.
Yeah, I've got to go and update that. We have a game the 20th.
Oh, we do. Okay.
Yeah.
I saw that South North Edgecombe. Okay.
Right.
All right. So we have North Edgecombe, and then we obviously have the South Creek, which is, for those that don't know, Riverside and South Creek are that's like the rival game, correct?
Right. And I've seen both sides of that.
Yeah.
Harold will tell you, when we won the state championship in '95, the two best teams in the state were from Martin County. If we wouldn't have won it, Roanoke would have. They were so talented, so good. And so that's been a rivalry for a while.
No question about it. Do you have
Brian? They had remember they had Cedric Racer, and he was he was a man.
Oh, he was. And listen, I remember my neighbor across the road over here, the collard eating king, dancing around dressed up like a redskin. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, and they came right in the middle of the field when they had horses and remember. I got so damn mad. Oh my gosh! Oh, if we hadn't beaten them,
those were some
it would
intense
have been
games. They were something else.
war in the world.
I mean, the only
They were a
thing
good
I've been
football
in
team.
to
You're
rival
right.
it is Conley Rose.
Rose.
The old
Rose.
Washington High School in West Craven was in that same realm. That was a really good game too, but that was just such an intense rivalry. Those two schools.
No question about it. I think with Coach Paschal, one of the things I know that you come into the school in July, but the very fact of a lot of the teams may be in similar situations, don't you think, with COVID? And I know Coach Woolard can talk to that too, about a lot of the teams as far as the athletic program has been, as far as financially, just everything has been way off kilter. And it's not our being the coach's fault or the administrator's fault. It's the virus is like just torn a lot of colleges apart as far as financially, athletically, and the same thing with high schools as well.
Coach Woolard, you gonna?
What a lot of people don't understand is the dollars and cents that go into. Yeah, the dollars and cents that go into the program. When you start limiting the amount of people who come to games, that cuts down your base. We have some great boosters. Our Fab 40 Club, we have some great boosters on that board. But you know, our guts throughout the year is getting those people in the seats. And to give you an example, football, it was cheaper for us to travel last year than it was to have a home game. Just to have officials for a football game, you're looking close to $500 for officials. Yep. Well, we can travel cheaper than that. Even though it's expensive, we still travel cheaper than that than to have a home game because, and especially when you start limiting the amount of people. Basketball games were the same way. You're paying a lot of money for officials, and we can only have 25. So a lot of schools are taking a hit. It's not just Riverside. A lot of schools are taking a hit. So from the AD side, that's part of the excitement of this year, having Coach Paschal there, having some new coaches on staff, but just to get things back the way it was, man, to know that in the fall, we're playing this, and this. And in the winter, we're playing this and this, and spring this, and those people are going to know and get back in there. So, yeah, COVID, you know, I tell everybody I hate talking about it because I hate giving energy to it. That sounds kind of corny sometimes, but I don't like giving energy to stuff that's negative like that. But the truth is the truth that it not only hurt us with kids playing, not being in school, man, you got to get kids back in school. This virtual stuff needs to get away from here. We got to get people back in the seats. We got to get kids back on the sports field to give them something to do and to give them something to work for and to kill that time. They've had way too much time on their hands.
No question. I want to ask you guys, as far as being the fundraising, I asked that question on purpose to lead me to this question. I'll be a terrible attorney, but as far as fundraising goes, I want to help out any way I can. And I know there are a lot of people that are watching that are Williamston natives that would love to help out Williamston and Riverside High. And I know you have the legendary Harold Robinson that knows how to raise money more than probably any other person.
Hey, Harold, would you do Who Day to raise some money?
I do Who Day.
What are some needs? Is it weight room stuff?
Dave, can I, I don't know. Here's my take on it. Fundraising and all of that. A football program that's unsuccessful can drain the life out of an entire athletic department because it costs so much. So if you have a program that's not winning and that's not getting people in the stands, it will drain not only, drain your entire athletic department. Nobody gets anything. But the other side of that is that if you have a football program that is winning and it does put a positive product on the field and people come to the games, it can support the entire athletic program. So football is one of those things where you've got to have a team on the field or your program's just going to, everybody suffers for it. So talking about fundraising, the greatest fundraiser we can have is to win games, get people in the stands. They pay $7 a ticket, and we put 1,000 in the stands. You can do the math work on that quickly and see that's what we need. what are our biggest needs? And somebody asked me today, Coach Woolard, what do we need? And I told them it was weightlifting stuff. They said, why don't you make a list? And I said, no, I can't do that because the athletic director needs to decide the order of things, how money's to be spent. And, coaches can't circumvent that and run around doing end around on you and go to whatever and try to do that. And I understand that. But eventually, when we get to the point where we are making money, we get people in the stands, we do get some surplus, we need to make some additions to the weight room whenever that time comes. And that's what I would say would be our biggest challenge. And weightlifting equipment is really expensive.
Oh yeah,
it is. It's mind-boggling. Like nothing's
And
a few $1,000. So.
And Phil, you know this yourself. I always felt this way. I always felt as an athletic director and football coach that the other programs came first, but it's your leading salesman, and you don't keep your leading salesman. You don't not fund your leading salesman, and if basketball was that, baseball was that, but football at Williamson High School funded all the other programs.
Right.
And so I just tried to make sure that football was funded. And then I didn't think that it was funded exorbitantly. By no means. We didn't get new uniforms but every 10 years. But I did make sure that we had different color socks. I mean, we had the same color socks on them. They were tube socks. And I always made sure that we had a weight room account. And that weight room account funded the weight room. And like Brian said, if you don't have your kids bigger, faster, and stronger, then you're going to have your kids injured and not playing in all sports. So I tell you what, today it must be a challenge, especially in a small town like Williamston and it must be a tough challenge. I've been on the collegiate level for 14 years, and money was no object there, and now they're running into the same crisis too. So, but you got to fund the leading salesman, and I felt like football was our leading salesman, and so I always made sure that football got.
Well, it's what jumpstarts your whole year.
Right.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
But Harold, you used to do things.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what gets you started. And anybody who wants to give some to do any kind of donation or anything like that to Riverside, I always tell everybody we don't turn any money away. So contact me through email or social media or anything like that. Weight room stuff along the way. There's somebody who wants to look at trying to help us upgrade that. I'm happy to talk to anybody about that.
Well, and let me ask you something, Phil. How much does it cost to join the sports club now?
So right now it probably
Phil,
hasn't gone up a whole lot since you were involved. We have 3 different packages. We have a $300, a $400, and a $500 level. 300 gets you 3 season tickets for any kind of sport you want to go see. 400 gets you 4, 500 gets you 5. Since we were in COVID, we advertise everybody at the football games. We advertise everybody at the basketball games. We also are just now finishing up our new Fab 40 board. The old board was taken down in one of the storms we had. And so we're finishing that up right now, put some more names up on that. So you get that advertising right there at our parking lot where everybody comes in and walks the track. So anybody who comes in and walks the track, that track is used just about 24 hours a day. They see your name up on that board. Yeah. And so that's a great program. Yeah. We have had a lot of dedicated people who join that year after year.
No doubt about it. So one of the
we started that tremendous 30 board.
Yeah, I remember, Coach. In fact, I was going to tell you that you know who brought me to the very first football game you were coaching? my next door neighbor was Ed Farnell,
Who?
God rest his soul. And he said, if you want to see a sports town,
Mr.
he said,
Farnell. They're the best.
he told me took me and my dad. I live right beside his house now. And he said, I'm going to take you to a sports game. He said, I'm going to tell you something before we go. This town takes their sports seriously. And you guys were still playing right behind the old KFC. And he took us there. And we were just, my dad and I were just like, we'd never seen anything like that before. Because if you're from a big city or, Durham, where we came from, they have, you think that they like sports. And then you go to a small town and you find out, wow, we've been missing out on something here. And so I'll never forget that. He was a great man and really good to us. And that's how I got introduced. It was one of the first football games of the '85 season.
Ed Farnell kept straight, didn't he, Coach
He
Robinson?
was the best. Ed Farnell hired me.
Oh, I didn't realize
Ed
that.
Farnell saw to it that I got the job after Dink left, and he saw to it that I got the job and gave me a chance. He told me, he said, I'm gonna be here for 1 year, whether you fall flat on your face or whether you succeed. I'm gonna just give you a chance to get an opportunity to succeed or fall flat on your face. And that was as honest as you can be to a young athletic director and a football coach. And he gave me that chance. I'll never forget him.
He was a wise man, for sure. Before we go, I wanted to ask both of you. I got Bubba asked me to first tell a Donnie K story. We know that you guys were close or still are close, but Donnie Kirkpatrick, if you can tell us, Coach Robinson, and I have a question, obviously, for Coach Paschal as well.
What about DK?
Do you have a story? Bubba was asking off air if you had a story about Donnie K you could share.
Oh, I bet stories about Donnie K. Yeah, but I can't share them on a podcast.
Okay.
He sat beside me.
Well, his son was a really good quarterback.
14 years. Yeah.
Oh, Davis.
He sat beside me.
Davis, he was one of the best I ever had.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely a gamer in every way.
I knew that baseball, he was really good, obviously, baseball, and played at East Carolina, but I didn't know his football skills well.
Well, he was tough. He was a tough competitor and player.
He was good.
Coach Paschal, I'm going to ask you.
On that staff, David, I can't hear you, buddy.
No, go ahead.
I can't hear you, David. David.
You said on that staff what? I'm sorry, you said.
I can't hear him, Brian.
Dave, what question did you have while he's getting straight?
All right, that's fine. I was going to ask you, I was telling you in the green room before the show, the very fact of we know that you coach Holt Nailers. For those of us that folks that are East Carolina folks, they watch and listen to the podcast. If you had a Holt Nailers story, obviously T. Cop at Washington, Terrence Copper that we've had on here as well that we think a lot of. Two great. I know you've had maybe some others, but I know those two players you've coached that have gone on to East Carolina.
Well, Holton, the thing that sticks out about him is he's such a good athlete. He's not just a kid that can run or throw or whatever. His foot speed is just off the charts. It was the best that we had. When he was in 8th grade, we used to go get him and bring him over and work with him. And Nate and I, who's now the coach at Conley, and he's just such a good athlete, but he's such a tough kid too. We were playing, I think maybe Havelock when he was a freshman, and he was a wing T quarterback, and he was under center, and he broke his thumb on his left hand. And he was over there. He said, Coach, he couldn't, it was out of joint, whatever. And the doc came over and said, Holton, the great news is I'm going to pop that back in and you get to finish this game. The bad news is tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, we're going to be in surgery. So that kid stood there on the sideline. The doctor popped it back in, put tape on. He went back out and played the rest of the game. And that was early in the first half. So not only is but he's such a tough young man. Terrence Copper absolutely was a joy to coach. in every way. Terrence, he was a leader on the team. He was just such a good player in every way. What people don't realize about Terrence is, he was such a great receiver for me at East Carolina, for the Cowboys, Chiefs, the Saints. By the way, he had 3 Hall of Fame NFL coaches when he was in the NFL, but he was such a great player. But what people don't realize about him is he was a better defensive player than he was an offensive player.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. Like whatever you did well, Terrence could take it away. He was a great receiver, as a great option quarterback, whatever it was. We could line him up inside, outside, deep. It didn't matter. He could just flat take it away. We won an unbelievable game for the conference championship against Havelock at Havelock, and came back from 12 down with 2 minutes left to win the game. And it was Terrence, flip ball to him, and that's who he was. He was a great gamer. He's a great kid, and just such a good person. I think so much of him, and he still stays in contact with me. He still calls and checks in on me. If I ever ask him to come see our team or talk to our players, he's over there in a heartbeat. He's just a really good person. His wife, Candy, who he's dated since high school, same thing, just like him. Great people.
No question.
Hey, listen, Harold, I'm going to tell you something.
Brian,
you and me. But listen, Harold, I'm going to tell you something I've never told you, and you and me are no longer going to be friends once I tell you this.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. After Terrence's freshman year, he moved over here in Williamston. You never knew it. He moved out. He was right on the edge out there near.
I know that. Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah. Look, I was going over there every year and helping him. I was going over there every year and helping him. Nobody knew him in Williamston. So he would go and ask for officially a drop from there, and then we go over to Beaufort County and add him. And that's how he played for me. When he should have been for you on that 1999 state championship team, he would have been one of your receivers. Are you mad?
I told him, Brian. He came through the gate asking, and I said, I don't know if you're good enough to play here. He said, I played in high school. I said, well, I don't know if you're good enough to play here.
Listen, Terrence Copper.
We joke about it now. Yeah, that was Terrence. Well, his grandmother.
Terrence Copper was the MVP of the Shrine Bowl.
He was living with. I know, but he wasn't good enough to play at Williamson High School in that year, and I didn't think that. And I told him he had to come to practice every night, and he said, I will come alternate days. I said, well, you're not coming alternate days, T. And so we're like you said, Brian, he is the best kid in the world today. He is a fine young man. He is a great representative of East Carolina University and Washington High School that there could be. I mean, I love the kid, and he's done things for me that.
Well, Terrence was the
Go ahead.
captain for New Orleans for the Saints. One of the coaches called me from the Saints and said, look, I need some inside information on Terrence, some things that nobody else would know, because when they're captains, we talk to the team has to guess who they are. So I threw all this information about Terrence out there to him. I won't tell you what it was, but then that was something that happened, and I'm not sure you ever forgave me for that, but other than that, I'm telling you, he is a solid person, great guy, and he has a good business going on there.
You know who that coach was, Brian? That coach,
he knew me because he was in East Carolina, and then he was the special teams coach with the Saints. I can't remember what the guy's name was.
He would, I can't even McForder, but anyway. He coached special teams with us at East Carolina, was Skip first year there. And then he went to the New Orleans Saints. And he called me and asked me about who the coach was at Washington High School. And I said, it was Brian Paschal. And so therefore I gave him the number to Washington High School. And then he's now at LSU. So
he needs to get out.
That's the story.
That ship is sinking.
Yeah.
One final question for you guys, college football related. How do you feel about Oklahoma and Texas moving to the SEC? And I saved a difficult question for the end.
Harold, you're the expert.
I will let the coaches handle this.
All right.
Well, I don't know. I don't think it's going to help. I think it strengthens college football. It'll strengthen the Southeast Conference, but I don't think it'll strengthen college football. I think that there's a lot of things that have gone into college football that today we're going to look back, just the money these kids are going to make. I mean, I talked to Lincoln, and one of the questions that some recruits have now is how much did your quarterback make? That instead of being what kind of education can I get, blah blah blah, is how much did Spencer Rattler make last year? How much did the young kid that quarterbacking at Alabama, who hadn't even been on the field yet, has made $1 million.
Yeah,
and that's
little Wake Forest can't compete
going
with
to
that.
ruin college athletics.
Hey, Dave,
Huh?
Kirk Herbstreit had an interesting take on this the other day, and you might have seen it. But his speculation was that it's going to wind up being 4 super conferences, but that isn't really the big issue. According to him, the issue is, will these teams remain members of the NCAA? So once you have all these great conferences and they have 8 teams or whatever, well, they separate, have their own championship game, and then they negotiate with the other conferences for a national championship game. And that is an interesting concept to me because that could happen. And then the NCAA, who now is kind of, losing their power and their hold on it anyway, you could see that happening. And of course, that would eliminate, that'll be bad news for the East Carolinas of the world, that are really nice, big football playing schools, but might not be in those conferences.
Tell you what, Brian, I think it will strengthen the East Carolina, but because they'll have to get a West Virginia or Texas Christian or Baylor. They're gonna have to get them into that league. But I think you're right about what Kirk said about the NCAA. I think it'll all but eliminate the NCAA's strict stronghold on college football. I think it will eliminate that.
My Demon Deacons might have to go to the Ivy League.
It can. Yeah. So, and like they talk about Michigan and Ohio State coming to the Southeast Conference, they ain't gonna do that. I don't think they would do that. No. I just don't think that.
No. Another question I had for you guys as a being football. I understand the money piece of things, but if you're in Oklahoma and Texas, you pretty much run the Big 12, and I understand about dollar signs, but Texas has more money than anybody else. I don't think their problem is money, but the biggest problem for to me, what I see is I'm looking at how do you go make the playoff, and if you're in the Southeastern Conference, I mean, it's unbelievable those matchups every single week. They can say all they want to expanding to 12, and they can have multiple teams in there, but if I were Oklahoma and Texas, I understand the Southeastern Conference and the allure to that. But as far as making the playoff and being the dominant brand, you're just in amongst a whole bunch of great brands and not like in Williamston, you're a big fish in a small pond. If you go to Durham or Raleigh, you're a small fish in a big pond. I mean, but what do I know? I don't make the decision.
Yeah, they'll still reap the benefits if we talk about what Herbstreit was talking about with those conferences kind of taking over. Even though you might be the bottom man on the totem pole in that conference for a while, you're still going to reap some of the financial benefits from that. I think they kind of saw the handwriting on the wall and trying to get in while they can. Because you're going to end up leaving a lot of conferences. I think a lot of conferences behind once that those power conferences get in there. A lot of folks can be left behind. I think they were trying to get in while the getting was good.
Well, that TV deal with the Big 12 is not going to be what they thought it was going to be. So they saw the cliche of the handwriting on the wall. They saw, hey, we're not going to make the money we thought we were going to make or used to make or whatever. And they got to the Southeastern Conference because the Big 12 has been lucky to stay married, stay together, if you will. It's getting ready to be a really ugly divorce. We've known that for probably about a decade now, but I just want to get your take on that. You guys are a lot smarter than I am, especially when it comes to college football. So I wanted to make sure we got that question in for our fans. And certainly it's hard to believe about a month away from college football, but certainly we're in the matter of a few weeks for high school football. Very exciting time for me. Certainly seems like it's been forever. This football season's I've been waiting for it for a long, long time. Usually it comes pretty quick. Do you guys have anything before we go? I know I've kept you an hour and a half, so I know y'all have got a lot on your plate.
Listen, I appreciate you having me on, and looking forward to tomorrow. Tomorrow's the first day of official practice, and really looking forward to it. So pull for those Knights and come join us.
Absolutely. What about you, Phil?
Well, that's one of the things I was going to say. Just, we got to, it's getting ready to start, wide open. Like Brian just said, everybody starts practice tomorrow. We got a lot of things coming up. We got a volleyball scrimmage jamboree type deal coming up. Paschal has his jamboree coming up on the 11th of August in there with a bunch of different schools that are coming in for that. Washington County will be there. Farmville will be there. Kit Pride, hopefully Northampton will have there also too, Northeastern. So you can come out on the 11th and watch a lot of different teams and a lot of football. And to me, like I said before, this August to me is more exciting than August before because, again, from that lean year last year, everything's starting back up. And, man, I'm excited. Again, we talk about the community being excited about having Coach Paschal here. I'm excited also, too. It tickled me to death to see his resume come across the desk.
I'm Coach Paschal. I'm tickled to death to have you here.
Thank you.
It's when I feel like, you have things are just aligning right in our great town of Williamston. We've got a lot of exciting things that are happening and more to come, but that's a whole nother show, as they say. To have a friend of Phil Woolard, when you have a guy like him as your AD, I mean, it's great. And Coach Robinson, we're going to give you the last word. You're my football coach, even though I didn't play football. As you know, that's one of my regrets in life is I didn't play football for Harold Robinson. If I could go back to the future, I go back in time, I would definitely play for him. And I wish I had been smart. I told you guys I wasn't very smart back then, for sure.
Look, I think it's Harold's bedtime. What do you think?
It is.
Look at him.
Coach, we'll go give you the final word before we go.
Well, no, I'm just laying across the bed. I just wish everybody the best. I'm just excited that high school football is starting back. And, last year was kind of off and on. And in the college football, they played in the Nippy Stadium. And I just wish that they all have, especially Brian. And you know how I feel about Brian Paschal and Phil Woolard. And it's just always a pleasure to go to that school and walk down that hill and into that stadium. And yeah, it's a special treat. And you got to savor the moment. And we always felt like solid ground. It was sacred ground. And we practiced on it on the last of Thursdays. But I'm glad to see everybody get back, and I wish them all the best. And except when they play Riverside, I don't wish them the best. But I'm just glad to see Brian back in it and coaching on the high school level as opposed to what he was last year. But he needs to get Terry Perry back. Get him on back. Bring him on
Coach,
back.
he's the new coach of Bear Grass.
You knew. And he's the new football coach.
Look, he's off that Harold Robinson tree, isn't he?
But anyway,
no doubt about it.
There was some good times.
No doubt.
I would have wished him all the best.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, buddy.
Thank you guys very much for coming on for Coach Paschal, obviously Coach Harold Robinson, the athletic director of Riverside, Phil Woolard. Gentlemen, it's been such an honor. I've been looking forward to this we set this up, I guess it's been a week or so ago, and I appreciate you gentlemen coming on. Good luck to this season, and I can't wait to be out there as many Friday nights as I can. Good luck to the Knights this year.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having us.
No doubt.
Okay.
All right.
Dave, hey, Coach Robinson, see you later, buddy.
Call me if you need me, David.
All right, I definitely will. All right, gentlemen, have a great night.
Good to see you, Phil. Brian.
All right.
See you, Harold.
All right, good night, everybody. All right, for all of us here at the Sports Objective, we always say go Pirates, also go Knights.
Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is Udon Cheek, assistant track and field coach at East Carolina University. You are plugged into the Sports Objective podcast. If you are a fan, you are plugged into the right place. And if you're really a fan, you will share that link. My heart is purple and gold. I'm a pirate down to my soul. And I don't back down, not at all. Find out when the cannons explode. Boom!